Why do we insist on an SEO audit before we work with any new client? It's quite simple that, I've basically got two reasons why that's the case. However, what I do find is that by insisting on having an SEO audit, we lose more customers than we win. So is it worth it? To be perfectly honest, having an SEO audit, really does cover two really important areas for me. One is that it's part of our process, and within my agency we've got a very strong and robust process-driven strategy, which means that if a task is done more than one time, it's a candidate for a process. So we create that process so we don't have to keep reinventing it every time, so that when any new client comes on board, or when we are asked to do a particular task, we've got a process in place that we can then follow, and we can ensure that the quality assurance is there. Okay, so we know that what we've done before has been done successfully, and these are iterated on a regular basis based on the things that come out of it and the things that are changing within search engine optimization. But principally it's because it's a process-driven pursuit, and what we can take from that is that if we follow those processes, we can also have a predictable outcome, and I think that's much more efficient and much more effective, not only for us as SEOs but also for the client, because not only is it predictable for them in terms of what we do and how we do it, but it's also predictable in terms of the results that we can provide, and so therefore we're always looking for a return on investment when we take a client on, and that's another reason why we would want to try and work with a client, and for them to agree to do an SEO audit, because really we need to have a look and identify whether we're actually able to help a client out in the first place. So I think it's always valuable to have that type of thing. And that leads me on to the second reason why I insist on an SEO audit, because really we do want to have a look and see what's under the hood. Very often it's quite easy to look at a website and say, yeah, well, we'll take those on as a client, without actually realizing that there's something fundamentally wrong with the website or the structure or what have you, which might not be apparent on the face of it, but once we get into the audit and to really get into the weeds, that we can actually identify that there's a bigger problem here, and that's not to say that if we identify the problem that we won't then just ghost them and discard them as a potential client, because we don't work like that. What we will do is actually identify whether that problem is actually within our skill set, because if it's a particular problem that we haven't dealt with before, and try to figure out a way behind the scenes of fixing it or dealing with it. That's just unethical and unfair for someone who is paying for your service. As I say, that's part of the process, in so much as if we haven't got a process for it, then we have to really identify whether actually we can give a service and value to the client. And I think that's really says something about what we want to try and portray to the market and try to portray to our client. We don't work with everybody, and we also don't want to work with everybody, okay, because other companies are built in different ways, but that does open up a whole load of other questions, because when we do onboard clients, we actually find that there's a couple of horror stories within that, in so much as I've had trouble with other agencies. And now I can't speak for those other agencies per se, because there's other factors that might come into play. But you do have to call out and question the quality and the assurance and the processes that those agencies have, because ultimately the reason why clients come to us and approach us is because of a failed campaign in the first place. Okay, so it's down to us to unpick that and to rebuild that in order to get the results for not only us but also primarily for the client. And so I think that that's really important to understand why we insist on an SEO audit. Okay, so I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are and whether there's any other way of being able to do it. Have you ever come across anything slightly differently which will help you to do that due diligence and that quality assurance in the first place in order for you to identify whether the client is the right fit? And if you are a company that are looking for SEO services, what is your experience of working with other people? Do they have due diligence? Do they have quality assurance in place? Can they give you a real breakdown of the types of things that they're doing before they decide on actually working with you? Can they give you some kind of assurance, a roadmap of the types of things that they expect to do based on what they've found in their original audit? So I'd be really interested to hear what you think, but my name is Paul Clark, blackandwhiteboy.com. Love to hear your thoughts. See ya, bye.